and indolently move away from this person in need. But then in the dramatic plot an unexpected setback arises. A character appears on the scene whose mere mention must have left the Jewish audience's stomach churning. A Samaritan traveler appears. Who were the Samaritans? The Samaritans were a people who had Jewish roots but who had mixed with other people who were pagans, thus making them a mixed people not only racially but also ethnically and religiously. The Jews, then, did not consider the Samaritans as respectable or worthy people and did not have dealings with them. Saying Samaritan was almost an insult in a Jewish mouth. But it is precisely this undesirable character for Jews who proves to provide a lesson in what it means to be a good neighbor. And here I would like us to learn from his actions what it means to be a good neighbor. First, a good neighbor is willing to break social conventions to help those in need. In Luke 10:33 it says, "But a Samaritan who was traveling came to the man and saw him and had compassion for him." The appearance of this character was breaking every stereotype, every convention, and cultural tradition. It was not possible, for the Jewish mentality, for a Samaritan to be capable of being sensitive to someone's need and compassion. The Samaritans were considered the worst of the worst and he was having compassion for a Jew, who perhaps if it had been the other way around, he would not have even looked at him. To put it in a modern context, it is as if it turned out that in a story, the drug trafficker was the one who showed greater human quality than a pastor or elder of the church. 531. The good neighbor is willing to risk crossing the boundaries of convention, of what has always been done, of what people would culturally expect, in order to help the need of a person in distress. Second, the good neighbor is willing to get his hands dirty by helping. Luke 10:34 says he came to him, healed his wounds with wine and oil, and bandaged them. This man got off his horse, took remedies to relieve the pain of the needy, soaked his hands in wine and oil and stained his hands with the blood of the wounded man. He had no qualms about using his hands to help others in need. It's easier. Open the bag and give a bill or bend over and wash the hair of a homeless man who is dirty and smelly. Of course, both are needed. But the question to evaluate ourselves is to think about how willing I am to get my hands dirty by helping others. Third, the good neighbor is willing to sacrifice his comfort. He says Luke 10:34b he put him on his own horse, took him to a lodging and took care of him. The Samaritan modified his travel plan. He put aside what was convenient and desired for him and put the interests and needs of that man first. Many of us would have been content to treat his wounds and leave him there, if at all necessary to locate his relatives so they could go look for him. But this man was willing to walk, to delay his plans, to stay awake for this person in need that he was barely knowing. How challenging this is. How willing I am to sacrifice my comfort. My wife had surgery on her left hand and for about 2 weeks she